What's up, Internet? We are back in town for another evening of Animal Crossing. Feeling a bunch better, so I can actually do this tonight for a decent period of time. I would very much like to get my good old classic shirt back, though. I just gotta remember which one it was in. I think it was that one. Yep, the cool shirt. The coolest shirt of all. It's even in the name. Alright, grab that. Grab this. I guess we'll take our presents from the museum for yesterday, so that we can get some inventory space. That sounds like a plan. Throw that away. Throw this away. Throw that away. And a letter from Tom Nook about a special sale on presumably clothes or a wardrobe, as in the piece of furniture. A Mario trophy. Well, we gotta get there, so let's go do that now. Actually, let's do that later. We can do that later after we get back. That's a plan. That'll be a fun little present for us later on. Alright, so what do we have here? We have a fresh shirt and simple paper. Not to be confused with a flesh shirt, which would probably be a lot less interesting. Or at least a lot more grim. But I don't like that color. That sort of green is just not quite me. If I'm gonna wear green, I'd probably wear more of an emerald rather than sort of a pastel green. That shirt just isn't quite fresh enough, if you get what I'm saying. Alright. Let's get on that train. Because we've got to go see Nook, we got to go do some other stuff. It's going to be a grand old time. Indeed. Alright. On the train. Now, which cat are we going to find today, I wonder? Oh, it's Blanca. Fortunately, I can't remember what I wanted to do for her face the other day. That may present a problem. And yet, we will find a solution of some description. I think what we'll do is go something a little bit simple. Okay. You got no face. I guess I could draw you a face. Let's see. That might be a better set of colors. Something like that. Yeah, I think that'll work. And then I think we're probably gonna have to go... Actually, I don't like that idea, so we'll do it this way. Like that. Then we go down here, 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 there, 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 and there. Hey Sykes, how you doing? Then, just so that we're clear, this is the sun with sunglasses because spring. Draw a little swirly. Represent exploding gas or some nonsense. However the sun works. Geodude's OP, is he? I've never been one for rock types, really. So I can't say I've played too much with Geodude. How'd you set him up? Are you abusing self-destruct or explosion? 4 gyms in gold. That reminds me of Sword and Shield, where I beat like all the gyms single-handedly with that weird cake monster thing. Like they just were not prepared for a fairy type. There, it's a smiley sun. You know, the funny thing about those two moves, Explosion and Self-Destruct, is every single shiny monster I have ever caught has had that in its roster of abilities, and it never used them, and I'm completely baffled by it. That's a pretty good roll to get 3 best IVs and 3 pretty good ones. I don't know, I've never had the patience to sit around and actually try and calculate and perfect IVs and all that. I'll EV train, but I won't IV stuff. That's just a little bit too much Finnick for my tastes. Ooh, that is a moody blue shirt. Looks kind of nice, although I'd call it a moody purple shirt. What other shirt did we get? Yellow tartan. Oh, that looks ugly. I don't want to look like a yellow picnic blanket, thank you. I will stick to the cool shirt. The coolest of all shirts. Alright. Okay, I can't use those as presents yet. Open that. Let's see, Stega Tail, Ammonite, and Terra Right Wing. I have to admit, stuff like the stat judges at least make trying to build IVs and EVs a hell of a lot easier. I mean, before you just had to sort of guess and assume you were there, really, and you wouldn't really know until you got to level 100 and you checked it, versus one that was registered as, like, perfect. And you had to see what the stat differences were. That was definitely obnoxious. T-Rex tail and a dinosaur track. Alright, well, we're definitely going to sell that T-Rex tail for some bells. That dinosaur track's probably not going to be worth much, though. Yeah, 1,000 bells. Although that T-Rex tail did sell quite well. Alright. What else do we have up here? GameCube logo. I mean, we already had one, but GameCube logo. That's impressive. I remember that Red Gyarados being kind of a tricky fight. If you could take it out that quickly with a monster that is essentially weak to it, that's impressive, especially with that sort of level difference. Okay, Snake's still here. Everyone else still seems to be right here, too. Huh, weird. Lucky criticals can make all the difference. For sure. I think that's how I ended up beating the rival champion in the first game, was with just a crit and a really low level team. I think I ended up taking out his Alakazam and Executor in one turn each with a Jolteon's Pin Missile. Just because they both got, like, crits. Okay, so we gotta go talk to Camo Frog. Once I throw that away. I like how it's actually springtime in the game, despite it being frigid and cold and snowy outside still. Pin Missile is a really good move, provided that you actually get all the hits in on it. It's one of those weird attacks that can hit like 2 times or 5 times. I've never been particularly lucky with those attacks, so I try and avoid them for more guaranteed damage, but Honestly, I got it during the champion fight, and the champion was like 20 levels above me, and I was just like, alright, well, I'm gonna die here. Let's see what this pin missile thing's all about, and I actually managed to do really nasty attacks with it. I think that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily like Eevee evolutions, though, is a lot of them tend to not lend themselves to a nice varied skill set. Like, your Jolteon will always have basically just electric moves and double kick because it's like the one non-normal moves that Eevee learns. Like, I've never liked how ridiculously specialized they had to be. Unless, of course, you're playing Pokemon Eevee, in which case they can learn every different element in the game. And that's kind of what makes it the most destroying thing ever, despite the fact it can't evolve. It's like getting that really awesome Eevee from the Pokemon manga that could just transform into all types instantly. It was a bit OP like that. Velma, give me a quest, would you? I know where Pearl is. It would certainly be good to figure out a gym order, for sure. Okay, so that goes to Pearl, but otherwise we don't have a quest right now. Take a videotape to Cookie! I think I can make that work. Alright, videotape Cookie. Let's go. She should be by her house. Except she's not, she's right here. Wearing her picnic blanket shirt. Delivery for you, Cookie. Yeah. I'll take a carpet, thank you. Alright. Well, we've helped Tangy out. I guess Goldie's the next person, although Chow is right here. Chow! What's going on with you? Oh no. Oh no, it's a ball quest. Oh. Okay, well, I guess we're looking for a ball. There's not one there. I mean, I don't want to look for a ball. Ball quests are the worst quests. Put that away. Man, only 17 more days till the new one comes out. That's super exciting. I am extra excited for that. I can't wait. Yeah. You don't want to have too many super effective starters. Starters tend to be a bit overpowered to begin with. Okay, so we're definitely gonna have to get this thing across that stupid bridge. Unless... No, that won't work. This is still probably the best place to try. Oh good, and Caesar is literally right there. Okay, well, he's busy focusing on fish. Alright, alright, alright. Cookie, get away from that ball. You are not allowed to touch that. Except for Charmander. Charmander is allowed to be OP because he's the best Pokemon. Okay, I don't like how that will take physics from that ramp, so we'll just try and drop it off a cliff. Just ever so gently. And I may have just bonked Chow on the head. I found your ball. Give me reward. Well, I stole someone's ball. I'll take a wallpaper, thank you. Well, fire, grass, ground, dark, and psychic. Let's see, what would be a good thing to synergize with that? Really, you've got a pretty good team right there. I mean, a fire type can handle quite a lot of different issues, as can grass. Water would be a good one to bring up. And if you're playing gold, a lantern might be good, or a Marip, if you can get one. I know they weren't in crystal, and that made me sad because they were like the best electric type. You're playing gold, so you can't really have a Skarmory. However, you can get a Gligar, and that would have some overlap with your ground type for sure, but it might have some advantages. Oh, I see. Well then, I can't be of much help. This is for your specific game, but it's good to hear that you're making progress on it. I'm not seeing Gulliver around. And we didn't see Camo Frog here, but we saw him earlier. Wendell is going to be in town on the 4th. Okay. Just be careful with your multi-types. You don't want to go too insane with how varied your multi-types can be. I have played some, like, Pokemon hacks that have, like, gym leaders, like, cover every single element across their multi-types, and it's, like, just dumb. Also, don't give every single trainer, like, 8 full restores, because I played a hack that had that as well. As well as every monster somehow having double team. I should actually, like, try and stream that game at some point, because that is just one of the most awkward Pokemon games ever. And it's a shame because there's a lot to it I like, but there's just so much wrong with it. And, like, the final boss to it, from what I remember, is, like, 18 boss-level trainers in a row. Because the creator wanted to thank every single one of his friends plus himself, so he added, like, 18 boss trainers in a single, like, gauntlet match, and it's just like, oh, why would you want to do that ever? Nothing from Ace. We're already running out of things to do. Although there is that trophy we can go look for too. That's pretty cool. Camo Frog, you're over here now. That's pretty varied. That certainly could provide a lot of challenge. I will tell you right now, you need to consider your world before you introduce your gym leaders as well. Just pointing out the obvious example with original Pokemon, but making Brock the very first gym leader is an objectively bad choice. Because unless you happen to take Squirtle or Bulbasaur, there was nothing that could really take him down any. And not just from the perspective of having Charmander or Pikachu if you had the yellow version, but, like, literally nothing ahead of him could actually do anything effective against him. Like, best you could do is maybe get a Butterfree and try and use Sleep Powder on him, or maybe try and get, like, a Pidgey and Sand Attack a whole bunch. Oh, you wanted that to go to Pearl, right? Mankey isn't available that early, and I don't think Nidoron can actually learn those things. At least in version I played. Route 22. No, I'm talking original Pokemon. Like, between Pallet Town and Pewter City, there's not really anything that's terribly effective against the first boss, and you're stuck there. They won't let you pass it. Are you? Huh. Yeah, because I swear, Mankey isn't in there. I remember because I played Pokemon Red and stuck on that route west of Viridian for over an hour trying to catch anything. And I just kept running into Pidgeys. Might be like a really ridiculously rare encounter, though, or something. I'll have to look that up, because I swear that's not the case. I know you can run into Nidoran, but I think you need to grind a little bit to get something like Double Kick on him, but I'm pretty sure Mankey isn't available for a long time. I don't know, it has been a while, but I remember that being sort of an issue. Is it's really hard to find anything that's good against Brock, short of your starter. Unless you start, like, leveling crazy. Alright, we've now talked to everyone. Well, time to go to good old Nooks. Ah, it's yellow only. Alright. Yeah, I was playing red. That would be it. So, maybe Nidoran is like the one exception, but even then, you'd probably have to level quite a fair bit to get a move that would be good on Brock. There's not really anything that is not a great deal of effort out of the way to actually go and get something that's good against him. And if you start with Charmander, you were basically screwed. I'll get you a fish spike, no problem. I don't know, I've always had a problem with Brock as the first boss, but that's also because I fundamentally start with Charmander every time. Level 9, really? Well, that would be like the one exception then. At least in the base red. And I think blue. Although you'd have a second Nidoran as well, but I'm not sure if that one has a different moveset or not. I know they've got slight differences. I should really know Nidoran's stuff by heart, given that Nidoking is one of my favorite monsters. Still, it just feels like there isn't a lot really thought out about making Brock inherently the first boss. Like, he's just got type advantage over most everything. And there aren't any things that are, like, inherently water or grass, things that would be super effective against him. Like, in their base monsters, anyway. Yeah. My solution to beat Brock was just get a Pidgey and Sand Attack the ever-living crap out of him and hope. That's how I had to do it. Brock was not really the best placed gym leader to be there. Like, out of all the gym leaders that exist just based on typing alone, I think Brock would be one of the worst ones to start with. Like Misty or Surge, they kind of work. Erica would have worked. Sabrina could probably work. She might be a little bit tricky given how overly powerful psychic types are. And the fact that Abra doesn't learn anything would kind of mean that you'd have to attack her at a higher level. So I don't think she could inherently be the first gym leader, just on level alone. No, I've not tried Kaizo Blue. I've tried a couple of Pokemon hacks. I have Glazed Liquid Crystal, Ash Gray, Life of Guardians, which is that weird one that has, like, some of the most weirdly, like, balanced gameplay ever, in that it's really wildly not balanced. And I suggest you play that to see, like, how badly to balance something. It's not good at all. We're gonna have every gym trainer and every normal trainer have every monster equipped with Double Team and 6 full restores. Oh, that's insane. He has Golem, Kabuto, Ammonite, and Aerodactyl. That's a terrible starting lineup for any starting trainer. I mean, he has a really bad one to begin with, but once you start mixing in alternate abilities in between water types and flying with Aerodactyl, that makes things really hard. I mean, I guess you could still Butterfree the situation, but that wouldn't be good. Oh, that is bad. Earthquake and Explosion on your first monster, Waterfall on the second, and Blizzard, and then Fly. Oh, oof. That's not good. Well, if you get all 3 starters... Hey, Chow's actually seeing us off. I don't think I've ever seen a standard villager on this acre before. That's kind of cool. Oh, I need to buy flowers. That's right. Well, if you start with the 3 different elemental starters all at once, that at least gives you some room to work with. And Bulbasaur would be incredibly OP for that fight, pretty much up till Aerodactyl, and even then. But if you did that in the context of the original Pokemon, where you could only select one of the 3, if you picked Charmander, you would be completely screwed. Like, you would just have 0 chance of success. I've been thinking about trying to stream some of my pirate games just for fun. I know I gotta do my pirate series over, so... At some point, I'm going to do at least one episode of Game Boy, or GBA, Sega Master System, and Game Gear games all in one cart. But I've got some Pokemon games I could also do, as well as the worst Fire Emblem game ever made. Oh dear lord, that is... I have never been able to figure out that game. Whoa, that's actually a really wide selection of monsters that you can run into fairly early on. The fact that you can get Growlithe, Vulpix, Diglett, as well as Sandshrew, Ekans, and Psyduck, that gives you a lot of options very early on. That could actually make that pretty understandable for a challenge then. But I assume that Brock also has a slight level increase as well. Someone at Mount Moon has Dragon's Rage. Okay, that's fair. Okay, level 15, that's not too bad. He already had one that was level 15 at the start, if I recall. I'm pretty sure his Onix was 15. But I think his Geodude was either like 12 or 9. So if you're running into like level 9, level 10 monsters prior to Brock, that's gonna at least give you a decent amount of experience. Although every 3 steps for a battle is terrible. But that's bad. That is just abysmal. And I've played some games with some really high encounter rates, but that is not good. Really, before Brock, it's all level 5. Oh, that's bad. Oh, I'm having flashbacks to my trying to create a Hitmontop fighting only, what was it, Caterpies and Weedles at level 1. I had to get to level 20 with that. Oh, that was bad. No, Wrap and Glare would be a bad combination of things to run into for sure. Yeah, that is definitely not designed for fun times. I kind of appreciate the idea of remixing existing assets in Pokemon, though. It saves people from having to, like, recreate an entirely new game from scratch. Your rival starts out with Mew. What dictates what moves it gets, then? Because I imagine Mew would have to have, like, some variance of abilities depending on how you played. Sort of like how Pokemon, his starter changes depending on how many times you effectively beat him. Which I did not actually learn until last year. I just thought he always got the same one. But nope, he's not stuck with Jolteon. Toxic. That's a good starting move. Toxic is underrated because it's just like the best move ever. It's certainly the best non-strictly offensive move ever. Oh, no way. Soft-boiled that early? That's a bit rough. I'm gonna have to play this hack. I gotta find more fun Pokemon hacks. Because Pokemon hacks are fun. Well, no, Toxic is the greatest equalizer of all. Because no matter how much you heal, they will never out-heal Toxic. I think a Crystal Kaizo might be pretty fun, just by virtue of the fact that remixing monster locations means that you might actually run into some new content before 80% the way through the game. I always had that problem with Crystal. Like, it was nice that Crystal introduced so much new stuff, including some really awesome monsters. It's a damn shame you don't get to see any of them until you've beaten the game once. Alright, Wisp. Mr. Bad Example. I wonder how many different villains Wisp can tell you about there are. I will help you, Wisp. But that's just because there's a promise of free stuff. Ooh, a Decoid. I like Decoids. But there should be. This is F4, so there should be another treasure around here. Which makes me think it's probably behind a tree somewhere. Or it's in the water where you can't see it. Pretty sure they said F4 anyway. Nothing here. Alas. There it is. Got the Mario trophy. I could definitely see that burning you out pretty quick with bullshit. I know Life of Guardians did that to me. Just running into so many monster trainers that had like a million full restores and everything has double teams so you can't hit anything. It's just far more frustrating than it has value. And it sucks because it's one of the few games I've seen that actually added new monsters. It was a neat game. It had a lot of bullshit to it, but it was a neat game. $1,005 bells. Not bad. Yeah, Dragon Rage would be real tough to deal with right there because of its fixed damage. Like, that's the frustrating thing. If you can get something with Dragon Rage early on, it will just decimate every single fight, but like, after the halfway, 3/4 the way through the game, it just becomes like one of the most useless attacks ever. Because it doesn't really take advantage of your monster's stats. I could see your monsters being final evolution by the time they get to Misty at that rate, for sure. Dingloid. But still no wiggly ghost bits. Oh, I'm so excited about the new one. I can't wait. But I have to wait. It's not coming out for another, like, 3 weeks. Little less. But I want to play it now. They're not battle heavy, but if you're running into encounters every 3 steps, that'll wear you down as well. I remember when I did my Pokemon Red playthrough, when I went to Mount Moon, I had to, like, backtrack to the Pokemon Center a bunch of times, and that was before having to deal with all the encounters you would have to deal with. That was on normal difficulty. But, I mean, if you're not having fun with it, don't play it. There are a billion Pokemon hacks out there, and I've played a few that are pretty good. Well, just remember, you gotta enjoy what you're doing. If you're not, then what's the point? But that said, you know, that does seem very dickish, but I mean, it is a Kaizo game, I guess that's the point. Oh, I should actually probably deliver some mail to Phyllis. Is there gonna be wiggly ghosty bits around here? Doesn't look like it. Oh well. Still, it's nice if you don't have to run into too many battles. That's a pretty solid collection of monsters right there. I think Ponyta that early on would be pretty good. Oh, that said, putting Ponyta in a forest seems like a recipe for disaster. I mean, seriously, think about it. The forest would burn down if Ponyta was living there. Are there any other Pokemon hacks you want to play? Because I know there's about a billion of them out there. And I've got mostly pirate carts of them, but I've played a few that are pretty fun. I played one that starts you off with one of like 5 potential starters, which is good because they decide to use like Gen 4 starters. It's like, I didn't like any of those, so they gave you a couple extra options. That one was pretty good, although my cart's a little bit buggy. I had to restart it a few times. I just like the idea of people making their own hacks of games. It's such a fun idea. Well, I know there's a big list of them online if you're interested in hacks alone. That's where I learned about a lot of them myself. But I've got a couple hacked cartridges myself that I can talk to you about if you want. But just the standard carts I have. Red, crystal. I have a silver, but it's in Italian. Yellow, blue. I have ruby. I've got 2 versions of emerald. One is a not-so-good knockoff cart and a real one. I have diamond, but I don't think I actually have the cartridge. Like, I've got the case, but the case is empty, I think, because I think my brother bought it and just never returned it. Soul silver, I think black. I had the one that had the lightning dragon in it. I had Y, I had Omega Ruby, and I had Sun. And, of course, I've got Eevee and Shield. Hey, Howlite, we were just getting all the fun gyroids tonight. That's fun. Still no more ghost bits, though. Wait a minute, was that one behind this tree? No. How did they redesign, like, different level layouts for all the caves and stuff? That's a pretty good collection. And the fact that it's on the 3DS means you can kind of transfer stuff to Pokemon Bank. I find it utterly bizarre that they created Pokemon Bank, and every time they release a new game it wasn't compatible with it until about a year later. And also, now they've discontinued Pokemon Bank, and they've created something else that is basically Pokemon Bank again. I just don't understand. It feels like Game Freak is being very anti-consumer at this point. I kind of like the idea of them dipping their toes into DLC to try and make better games and to basically create that third version that mildly changes some things as opposed to having to sell the game again, but still. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it makes it feel any better, I had Pokemon Ranch on the Wii. That was very useless. Actually, I think I still have that. I wonder if I've got anything on there. I don't think I have any game that I can transfer to right now, though. But transferring Pokemon should not be as complicated as they've made it. And sure, the technology gap is certainly a reasonable reason for it, but even then, when there isn't really a technology gap between versions or stuff, you usually like need an intermediary program or something to just hold on to it to then turn it into your like most recent Pokemon game. And it's always like one way, so it's just really unappealing. I have never even tried Pokemon Home, honestly. I have never understood Wonder Trading because, well, I shouldn't say that. I get what it is on principle, but in execution it makes zero sense. Like, the idea of randomly trading with random strangers randomly is kind of an interesting one. It's kind of got like a slot machine sort of aspect of, ooh, I could trade this monster and get Mewtwo or something, but it doesn't matter what you trade, you will always end up getting like a Rattata. Like, no one will ever give anything more than the bare minimum and expect more. That's kind of the problem with Wonder Trade, I think. Well, as long as you've got a way to get to bank, that's at least a decent step towards where you need to get your monsters into the more recent games. But even now, seeing as, you know, Pokemon Sword and Shield has axed half the roster, although they're adding some back in with DLC now, apparently. Which I also don't like. I think that's very scummy. You know, at least they're kind of sort of making it possible for you to get your monsters into the now, which is kind of nice. That's pretty impressive to get Cresselia out of a Wonder Trade. I think the best I've ever done is, like, I might have gotten someone's bad IV trained starter egg or something like that. I think I got, like, a... what is it, a Froakie or whatever, the thing that evolves into Greninja once. I think that's about as good as Wonder Trade's ever treated me. But it seems like people just want to try and trade the bare minimum and expect the maximum for it, and because that seems to be the zeitgeist of it all, well, then the whole system kind of falls apart. I'm genuinely surprised I remembered Froakie, given that I had a Delphox in that game, which was apparently the worst one, but screw it, I almost always pick the fire type because the fire type is the best. Except the time it was a monkey or a cat. But yeah, trading in Pokemon nowadays is a bit of a crapshoot. But that said, even back in the day, people really, really didn't want to give up their monsters all that well. Like, even on the Game Boy, people would often just yank the trade cable out while you were trading so that they got both your monsters. I ran into that a few times. I don't know. It just feels like trading Pokemon has never really worked out. But maybe that's for people who have friends. Why can I not find this last wiggly ghosty bit? I ran into people who wanted to trade with me because I was, you know, I was in the demographic at the time, and literally Pokemon blew up in elementary schools so much that they had to ban it. Like, when the cards were introduced, everyone was trading cards at the line, and then it was suddenly banned. And then no one ever traded cards again. Or if they did, they had their entire collection taken away by the teacher. You weren't allowed to bring your Pokemon cards to school and trade there. It was sad. But, you know, if you ever had a monster that no one else had, then they wanted to trade with you, but they'd always yank out the cable and keep your monster and keep theirs. And the worst thing is, you were the one who had to always supply the cable, so of course your cable was getting wrecked doing it. The short version is, I haven't had the best history as Pokemon trades. Oh, and I just destroyed a flower, because I'm looking for this damn wiggly ghosty bit I can't find. Come on, it's gotta be around here. Well, I mean, it doesn't. It's randomly spawning, but still. Logic dictates it has to be here eventually. I don't know, I remember when Pokemon card trading was a big thing in elementary school. I brought one once to show off because I thought it was rare. It was an Abra, so it probably wasn't. And someone stole it, and I remember thinking I might have dropped it at the schoolyard, so after school I went wandering around and I saw two kids playing Pokemon cards. And one had that exact Abra, and I'm pretty sure that person somehow stole it from me. I never confronted him about it, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I don't know. I don't have the best luck with people, is the short version of it. That's why they give me really bad anxiety attacks nowadays. Okay, there really does have to be one more little ghost guy around here somewhere. Nothing around here yet. A 2018 legendary Kyogre. You haven't touched the game in a while, it seems. You know, Kyogre was why I really wanted to get Sapphire when I started the 3rd generation. And it's funny because I still think Kyogre is probably infinitely better than Groudon, but it was ultimately Mawile that made me want to get Ruby, and ultimately I did. I don't know. I like the fact that in earlier Pokemon games there were like instant kill moves that if you knew exactly what you were doing, you could make them always hit too. That was always a lot of fun. So if you're having issues with your Kaizo, just get something with an instant kill attack and get the X accuracy, and it will always hit. Just a little tip. I'm still missing one little wisp guy though. Huh. Stupid ball, go away. You're not a ghosty bit. I don't care. There needs to be one of these guys around here, but I'm just not seeing it. Either we're just not getting good spawns. Wisp, help. I've done most of your job. Can you at least give me a hint as to where this last guy was gonna be? I mean, theoretically, he'll be anywhere because, again, it's a spawn-on-the-spot sort of thing, but still. Your bank won't accept your Alolan Marowak. Why? Because it's a special variant, or does it think it's like a hacked one or something? I never liked that they seem to just take away the Alolan forms. Hey, we got a Rhythnoid. Ah. It's a special event one, then I assume. Still, I would think it would still accept it, or it should anyway. That's rather odd. I've read recently that banks and stuff just aren't accepting certain monsters on a glitch because they think they're hacked or something. But I don't know. I also don't have home, so I can't really comment. I don't have bank either, actually. I always thought bank was weird. I never invested in it because I'd always get Pokemon like at launch, which is of course well before the bank would ever actually accept monsters. What really annoyed me about Sun was one of the coolest design monsters, the giant flying stag beetle of electricity, was such a cool monster, but you couldn't get it until the end because it required an environmental thing that didn't show up until pretty much after you beat the game. And that was just so indicative of Sun, really, was all the cool stuff was just not available until the end. Yes, Vikavolt. Or as I like to call it, the thing from Gradius. I am not finding this ghost. It's driving me kind of annoyed. Like, take Silvally, for example. I mean, I mentioned this in my top 10 Pokemon list, but, you know, the moment I saw Type Null, I wanted that on my team. I wanted that to be, like, my flagship, like, personal custom monster, and it's like, not allowed to have this till you beat the game. It's not even really a legendary, but you're not allowed to have it. Yeah, I like its design as well. That's kind of why I wanted a Vikavolt. It was a cool monster. And that's why I tried to level up one of those little grub things that turns into one, but it didn't matter because you couldn't transform it because you couldn't find the little thing that would evolve it until basically the end of the game. It would mean having a basically entirely useless monster all the way through. And then once you finally level it up, you'd have to go find like a name rememberer to get all the good moves because you'll have over-leveled past the point where it gets them. Did you get your Jolteon? Nice. And at level 5, that gives you a lot of room to try and level it and get some fun abilities. Of course, it being a Jolteon, it doesn't have the biggest moveset or abilities that it can learn, but still, you know, getting one that early, that's pretty cool. Where the hell is this last ghost? Or more accurately, why can I not make it spawn? I don't think I ever bothered to get a Sylveon. Actually, I never bothered with Glaceon or Leafeon either. But that's the thing, I never really cared for Eevee all that much. I learned to respect Jolteon after I played Pokemon Red last year. And I've always liked Umbreon, even if I found it to be a little bit underwhelming in terms of abilities. But somehow now Eevee's sort of become sort of my flagship monster for some reason, even though I don't really care for Eevee all that much. Yeah, Umbreon has an HP restore move, but the thing is, like a lot of monsters that came from Generation 2, it was focused a lot on defense, which meant that fighting a lot of heavy hitters kinda... It could hold its own, but it couldn't take them out. And I think that's why a lot of people like Espeon, because it at least had the offensive capabilities of a Psychic type. Which, full respect to that, but I just like Umbreon's design way better. Although I think we can all agree the single worst Eevee evolution of all time is Flareon. And it always will be. Since its inception, it has been the worst, and it will always be one. Leaf Blade would be a good move to have on a Leafeon for sure. I could definitely see that at least being a decent offensive ability. Okay, seriously, I'm still not finding that ghost and it's driving me crazy. It's almost like it lacks physical presence. Like it was a ghost or something. That's not a bad little move pool. Although I would maybe myself replace one of those abilities with, say, Toxic. Toxic would probably be a good replacement. I think just to give it a little bit more effectiveness, like even against stuff it's not necessarily strong with. Of course, it being an EV evolution, it's kind of stuck with not having a varied move pool, which kind of hurts it as well. Like, that's another thing I just do not have a desire to use a lot of EV evolutions, because they're just stuck using their one element. There you go, that's some strategizing. I would have kept Mega Drain. I probably would have replaced Synthesis myself. I think I once made a Crad Lily that was like Mega Drain, Leech Seed, Synthesis, and some other healing technique that like could basically all be used at once, and just made the giant defensive wall of indestructibility. And that's why Crad Lily's actually really good, but I don't like Crad Lily all that much. I like the other one better. Ingrain, that might have been it. I remember trying to come up with some like different gimmicky style monsters. Like in Gen 4, I know they added like a whole bunch of really fun water moves like Brine and what is it? Water Ring, and there's Aqua Ring. There's a few other really fun water moves, and I tried to just make like a monster using all those fun water moves, and that was a lot of fun. That was probably the most fun I had with that particular generation. But again, I'm kind of biased against Gen 4. And I'm sure that this thing is not going to spawn, and the game thinks we actually have 5, but we don't. That good old Vaporeon gets an Aqua Ring. That's good. I really wish Wisp would at least give you some sort of hint as to where you have to go to find one. Look, Wisp, buddy. I have looked everywhere. I have circled this place, I think, 4 times. And I've still not found the last ghost. So come help, or use your ghost powers to detect it for me or something. Because now I'm getting annoyed. I've been doing this for half an hour now. And granted, it's not been boring. I've gotten to discuss a lot about Pokemon, but at the same time, I would really, really like to find this ghost. Also, at some point, I do have to get back to doing my Let's Play of Pokemon Ruby. I just have to find the time for that. But at some point, I do have to fight the Flying Gym Leader. Yeah, I think that's one of my biggest strategies, is just to look at the different elements that a particular Pokemon inhabits, and then basically just give it the exact opposite moveset. Just give it everything that it's not necessarily super strong with, and then maybe give it one stab move. That way you can take advantage of its typing, but then the rest is just to cover weaknesses and stuff. That's always been how I've tried to set up my monsters. So kind of limiting what an EV evolution can learn in terms of like their elemental coverage is problematic, to say the least. I don't think this ghost is going to spawn. I just don't think it is. I think the game thinks it's already spawned 5. And it's just not going to spawn another one. But the thing is, it's only spawned 4. Jolteon to fight Raichu. Well, to be fair, Raichu sucks. I've never been a fan of the Pikachu line of evolutions. I think they're all kind of annoying. And the fact that they're the Faceless series just annoys me. Oh, Raikou, not Raichu. Well, to be fair, Raikou was never the best of the legendary dogs anyway. I was always one to like Suicune myself. You know, the one that no one knew how to pronounce its name. That one. Oh, to be fair, that was more of a defensive-oriented monster, too. It didn't have a lot of offensive abilities. Volt Absorb. That'll do something. That'll kind of make fights against electric types rather easy. Although if you could have slapped Earthquake onto your Jolteon, that really would have destroyed Raikou. But again, you can't put ground types on an electric Eevee, and there's no ground Eevee, so nope. I was just playing the N64 one of these for my review, and it's weird to see an island that just does not have a dock on it. Yeah, really, at that point, Raikou's only ability is Bite, and as long as you can prevent him from fleeing a fight, you've kind of got him at that point. Of course, that's the real trick, is preventing them from running. Well, that and running into them in the first place. I have now been doing this for over an hour. They don't run in Ultra Sun, interesting. I don't have Ultra Sun, I just have the original Sun, which does not feature those monsters. At least as far as I know. We already found the Mario trophy, there's nothing there. Might as well put this in my house, I guess. But I think we're done, just by virtue of the fact I can't find this last ghost and it doesn't want to evolve. Kind of a shame we can't find the Luigi statue. Still. Got 2 Mario statues. Never really did figure out what I wanted to do with this room either. It's just sort of how it is. Oh well. Anyway. I've been doing this for an hour and I can't find this last ghost, so I think we'll call it for there. Huh. That's interesting. That's pretty cool that they have that sort of legend fighting system through wormholes. The original Sun did not have that feature. Which is unfortunate, I think, because I think that's a pretty cool feature. Anyway, I think that will be it for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you did, follow the stream to know when we go live, because we do this every night, plus Mario Maker earlier in the evening. Other stuff when I have the time. I'm thinking about recording some pirate footage of my Master System and Game Boy Advanced cart tomorrow. So if I have time, we'll see if we can do that later in the afternoon. I know I got 1 or 2 things I gotta do tomorrow. But we'll be doing that. That's really cool that they are also exclusive to versions, I suppose. Although I think that's a little annoying too, because if you want something explicitly, then you have to trade for it, which is always a big hassle. Xerneas. I always like the Wyvern one. Anyway, you might also want to check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel to see everything else I do, including a now 3-hour-long-ish Super Nintendo collection video I just put up. I'm very proud of that. That was like a month's worth of work right there. That was a lot of hoops I had to jump through to get that, so if people want to watch that, that's definitely appreciated. And if you really want to make my day, check out the show's PayPal or Patreon. Support the show any way you can so that I can continue to do what I do to the best of my ability, which in this case is make really long Super Nintendo videos, talk a lot about Pokemon while not playing much Animal Crossing, and failing to find that last ghost because it really just did not want to be found. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Peace out, Internet.